Gareth Kane and welcome to another edition of Ask Gareth. The idea here, as always, is very, very simple. You ask me questions about corporate social responsibility or sustainability, and I do my best to answer them. The clue is in the name. And the question this time comes from Adam. And it's a bit of a theoretical one, but a very interesting one. And I have paraphrased it slightly, I have to say. But it is, Dear Gareth, you often talk about the business case for sustainability. If that business case is so strong, or as strong as you say it is, why isn't it happening by default? Well, very good question, Adam, because that business case is very strong. If you take sustainability seriously, then you'll find compliance easier, you'll cut energy, water and waste costs, you will attract and retain better staff, you will attract and retain better customers, and you can open up opportunities in the low carbon economy. So it's fantastically strong, and various studies, I usually quote one from Harvard Business School, which looked at the performance of a group of high sustainability companies and a group of low sustainability companies, and found the former outperformed the latter by about 50% across a very wide range of financial metrics. It was very, very compelling. So why, as Adam asks, doesn't this just lead to sustainability happening as a matter of course? Well, it will, but very, very slowly. And in my view, and the view of others, far too slowly to meet the risks of, say, climate change, because that change is happening too quickly for us just to wait and take a very laissez-faire attitude. And it's happening slowly because people are involved. And we can have all this sort of economic argument about markets and efficiencies and supply and demand, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, people are involved, and people are not necessarily rational animals. We like to think we are, but psychologists have proven that we are animals at heart, and we deal with things at a much more irrational level. So let's look at some of those things that slow sustainability down. And the first, I would say, is habit. Now, just think about this morning, or the average morning you have. I bet you, like me, get out of bed and probably go through a set routine in the morning with barely thinking about it. It would have to be, getting up early for a business trip or something to do things differently. Most mornings, you probably get up and do exactly the same thing every morning. Now, what if somebody was to come and tell you that that routine was somehow bad for your health and you should do a completely different routine which would see off some terrible disease, some really compelling reason to do it? Well, it would be still very, very difficult to keep the new habits going, because you've got those old habits really ingrained inside you, and you'd have to think very consciously for a very long time to do it before the new system becomes routine. And that happens in all parts of our lives, particularly at work, and we tend to make the same decisions we've always made to such a degree that one of the big problems for sustainability is almost the decisions not made, that we should be considering different options. We don't. We just do what we always do by default. And if you scale up that inertia from one individual to a whole organisation, you get what I call institutional inertia. And that's one of the biggest blocks to change. All those people that we have to get acting in a slightly different way in order to take sustainability forward. Okay, moving on from that, there's also fear of change. And psychologists have shown that if somebody proposes a change to you or me, we will naturally downplay the benefits of any change and exaggerate the risks. And again, when you're trying to persuade somebody to buy into the, what appears on logic to be a very worthwhile low carbon project, you'll often find people like, "Ooh, I'm not sure about that." It is a form of fear. Now, my solution to that is to tilt the whole thing the other way, because the same psychologists found that if something is your idea or my idea, we tend to exaggerate the benefits and play down the risks almost the other way. So a lot of my work is to do with co-creation of solutions, because you get that wonderful buy-in that comes with it. So I've made a career out of that. It's so powerful. The third issue I'd like to bring up is it's not just people within the organisation. there's a huge number of external stakeholders, such as shareholders, customers, pressure groups, the general public, local populations, but in particular suppliers, who have an effect on your ecological footprint. And I flagged up suppliers because for most organisations the bulk of their ecological footprint is in the supply chain. Now, engaging with people inside your organisation is difficult enough. Engaging with people outside the organisation is even harder, and people are sometimes a little reticent about doing that properly. And particularly with suppliers, I always say you've got to do two things. One, you've got to set out what you want and encourage your suppliers to deliver on that. And secondly, as well as the carrot, there has to be a stick, that if they won't give you the sustainability performance you require, you will go and find another supplier. A lot of people are reticent about that second bit, but I think